welcome to Donut Decision. With the passing of the cupcake fad and the proliferation of artisanal donuts, we thought it was high time to find the best that Chicago has to offer. Of course, there are many types of donuts, but we decided to start the first donut decision with an old standby, the old-fashioned. Simple, yet complex. Here to tell us and their opinions on the old-fashioned, the best that Chicago has to offer, are three expert tasters. First, we have Jeremy, who has very many opinions on all things food-related.
That's true.
We also have Christine, a tastemaker around town.
Thank you.
And on the end, D-Money.
I love donuts.
Very well known on the donut tasting circuit. We're going to be tasting 6 donuts today, 5 artisanal donuts, and also a wild card from a global donut chain. Now, in true hipster fashion, these donuts were delivered to us on a fixed gear, no brake bicycle by a wax mustache gentleman. They're very fresh. They were made just this morning, so you'll be tasting the best of the best. You're going to be scoring those donuts, each one on a scale of 1 to 10. You're going to be looking at 3 things: taste, texture, and appearance. Those things are going to be combined into a score of 1 to 10 for each donut. We're going to tabulate your scores at the end, and whoever has the highest is going to be called the title donut, the best old-fashioned that Chicago has to offer. Now, the judges are not going to be aware of which donut they are tasting, so this is a blind taste test. So now on to the donuts. Let's take our first donut test, again, a blind taste test.
I spell coriander?
Christine, I noticed that you were writing furious notes at one point after your first or second bite. What is your take on donut number 1?
I gave it an overall score of 6. Appearance, I described it as pale golden, but too pale for my preference. And then sort of a generic sweet taste.
D-Money, you had to hide your answers at one point from Christine.
Yeah, I agree with her, but I also disagree. I have round for appearance, which is, mine's
unexpected for a donut.
Yeah, so tangy, moist, and coriander. I had a little hint of coriander, a little paprika, which had a nice finish for me.
And lastly, Jeremy, we've got your score again, a 6. Christine's score, a 6.
I was a little bit higher. I was at a 7. I agree with Christine that it's very pale, and I think that came through with the texture. It was pretty soft. It definitely did not kind of have that biting crunch that sometimes you get from an old-fashioned, which I like, but I think the soft texture was really nice at the same time, that it was very pleasant. It was extremely sweet. I think most of the points that I took off were just from that really one-note sweetness that I got from it.
Well, donut number 1 coming out a little bit better than the midpoint at 6, 6, and even a 7, so we'll see how the others stack up as we move on to donut number 2. Judge Jeremy, I can't help but notice that you had some interesting, not particularly flattering facial expressions on this donut.
This is a big cliff from number 1. I gave it a 4 overall, which just didn't do a lot for me. The appearance, it looked, was very dense. Even picking it up, it probably weighed twice as much as that other donut. Not a lot of glaze, or if there was any, it wasn't very good, and really dry.
So a big drop-off from donut number 1 for Judge Jeremy. Judge Christine.
I did not like this donut at all. Not at all greasy enough. I would subtract points for the grease factor because it just didn't give me that donut-y satisfaction, and then the flavor was underwhelming. I gave it a 1.
Ooh, a 1
I can't
Judge
imagine
Christine.
Finding a worse donut in this group than this particular donut.
Well, you know what I'll say? Because it's so heavy, you probably burn a fair amount of calories just lifting
Picking it up.
which maybe makes the nutrition of it a little bit better. But
D-Money, we've got some pretty rough scores so far for donut number 2. What's your take?
I gave it a 3. It's still a donut, so it's got to be above a 1 because donuts are so good.
After a rough go for donut number 2, the judges are now receiving donut number 3. 3 out of 6. Judge Christine, where does donut number 3 come in? I saw you change your score at least once.
I am impressed by this donut. I initially thought that the appearance was a little disappointing. I thought that these crags and cracks looked perhaps mass-produced, maybe shaped somehow artificially, so that biased me against the donut. I thought the flavor was very good, a buttery flavor, which was a little bit surprising, but not unpleasant. 8 out of 10 overall.
D-Money.
An 8 also. I think it's a coincidence probably that we both had 8s. But I liked it because it looked like a flower. Very round, and I don't think these are mass-produced. I think it just kind of cracks open, like blooms like a flower when it's being baked or fried. Probably fried.
Judge Jeremy, you were ready with your score before the other judges. You'd formulated an opinion very quickly, and that opinion is?
I don't think it was as good as the first one. I gave it a 6. I think not so much a flower. It looks like an onion ring surrounded by tater tots, which isn't necessarily bad, but it had that kind of, more fried food, golden brown appearance than the first one did. So I thought it was a very good donut. I wouldn't turn it down, but not as good as number 1 for me.
Donut number 4 coming up to the judges right now. Judge Jeremy, I'm going to start with you. You also completed your scoring similar to number 3 earlier than the other judges. How did you come in on this donut?
This is a gorgeous donut. Just looking at it, it's got a beautiful color, the right amount of kind of that cragginess that we were talking about earlier. And the taste was excellent. I gave it a 9.
Wow. Highest score so far
yeah.
for Judge Jeremy. Judge Christine, Jeremy said this was a beautiful donut. Do you concur on the donut's appearance?
I do. In fact, I picked it out on the table right away as the most beautiful donut. I wrote gorgeous looking, magazine cover worthy. I felt like from a flavor standpoint, that's where this one, while the flavor was very good, it was somewhat predictable, and I guess I just did not pick up on some of the layers that Jeremy said he picked up on. I felt that it was just a good sugar flavor, but not as flavorful as the preceding donut that I rated a little bit higher because of its good dairy taste.
And your overall score?
My overall score was a 7 for this one.
D-Money, they were talking about,
Wow.
thumbs down.
3. I gave it a 3.
3.
Most of mine is a donut whole, so I'm paying good money for just the whole. My whole is bigger than yours by far. That's half the size of this whole. And it's too sugary. I put sweet and sugary. I guess those are the same thing. I also put gross.
So an interesting variance of opinion on donut number 4. Again, these scores will be tabulated at the end. Clear away donut number 4 and get ready for donut number 5. Looks like the scoring is complete on donut number 5. Judge Christine, you were the first to finish scoring on number 5. Your take on this donut?
I'm not a fan of this donut. I gave it a 3. I thought it managed to be dry, but also pretty greasy, which is not a great combination. And flavor-wise, I felt that it had a slightly overdone burnt flavor.
Judge Jeremy, your take on this donut?
This was a tough one. It was a little bit perplexing for me to kind of figure this out. It was pretty different from the ones that we've had so far. Just appearance-wise, I agree with Christine. It's not the most attractive-looking donut I've ever seen. Just kind of the kind of haphazard, a little bit of glaze on top instead of kind of the drenched in glaze look we got elsewhere. I thought the taste was fine. I gave this an average score. I could put it at 5. I think it's better than donut number 2.
A very middle-of-the-road score for Judge Jeremy. D-Money, where are you coming in on this donut?
A 9. I loved it.
Wow.
A 9?
Yeah.
Again, a variance of opinion.
Because of the drizzle factor. The glaze is drizzled on. It's not caked on. It's not the baker. We'll call him Hal, didn't go nuts. He didn't just dip it in. He spent his time, probably took hours to drizzle each individual. You can see it's a work of art. So I have drizzly, subtle because of the subtle flavor. It's not so sweet and doughy. I don't know why I put that.
We're going to clear the way now for the last and final donut, donut number 6. Final donut, donut number 6. D-Money, you were doing some interesting physical tests on the donut. Let's start with you. Where did this donut come in for you?
I thought it was undercooked because it fell apart so easily, and I also thought it was gooey and a little lame. So I didn't like it. I gave it a 4 because it was just kind of yucky, undesirable also.
Yucky and undesirable for a final score of 4 on donut number 6 for D-Money. Judge Jeremy, where did you come in on this last?
I like this a lot more than D-Money did. I gave it a 7. Maybe I'm a sucker for nostalgia, but this one tastes a lot like what you expect a donut to taste like. The glaze is a nice balance. It's not ridiculously sweet.
Judge Christine.
I wasn't as enthralled by this donut. I gave it a 4. I noted that its appearance is sort of pale and wan. I was looking for more of that goldeny look. It was sort of a generic sweet taste again. So I marked it down a little bit there for an overall score of 4.
All right, well, that completes our judging of donuts 1 through 6 today, the old-fashioned donut test. We had some interesting results here. Let's take it from the bottom. The worst donut was donut number 2, described by D-Money as yucky. Christine said, awful. And Judge Jeremy said, dry. This was the Starbucks donut, the worst donut in the cellar of the donut tasting, with a total score of only 8. The Starbucks old-fashioned donut. Next, the donut with a score of 15 was donut number 6, glazed and infused. So it has quite a bit better than the first donut, but still coming in near the end of the donut tasting. Judge D-Money said this donut was gooey. Christine said delightful creamy texture, but predictable taste. Judge Jeremy said a traditional donutty flavor. This is from Glazed and Infused. This is donut number 6 with a score of 15, coming in 5th place. Coming in 4th place with a score of 17 is a donut from Dinkel's Bakery. This is described by Judge Christine as dry, overdone, and burnt. Judge Jeremy said not enough glaze. Judge D-Money said there was a subtle drizzliness to this donut. This is from Dinkel's Bakery. Interestingly, there was a tie for 2nd place. This was donut number 1 and donut number 4, both scoring 19. Donut number 1 from the Doughnut Vault. This was described as tangy by Judge D-Money. Judge Jeremy said it was very sweet. Judge Christine said generic sweet taste, a little bit pale. Still the flavor profiles of donut number 1, putting it in a tie for 2nd place from the Doughnut Vault. Donut number 4 also getting a score of 19. This is from Do-Rite Donuts. Judge Christine said this one looks like it could be on the cover of a magazine. It had the best texture and appearance, but the taste was one note. Judge D-Money said this was simply a cratery donut. Judge Jeremy said this donut was gorgeous. Tie for number 2, donut number 1 and donut number 4. And the top donut, number 1 donut, was donut number 3 with a score of 22. This is from Firecakes. Judge D-Money said this is a crunchy donut. Judge Christine said great texture and terrific buttery flavor. Judge Jeremy said there's lots of sour cream in this donut. A great winner. The title holder for our first test, the old-fashioned test on donut decision, was Firecakes donut, old-fashioned, with a score of 22. Judges, thanks for participating in our first donut decision. Any final thoughts, Judge Jeremy, after 6 old-fashioned donuts?
I think other than that Starbucks donut, everything else was pretty good. Even though I think I like some better than others, there seem to be a lot of great donut choices out there.
Judge Christine?
A lot of diversity in choices, but I would say, if you're going for the splurge, choose carefully, because I did observe a pretty big difference. So if I were going to splurge on a donut, I would go with Firecakes or one of our other top-ranked donuts.
D-Money.
I feel lardy and tired. I don't think you should eat 6 donuts. I think you should pick maybe 1 or 2 and eat the one that you like best, would be my advice.
Well, thank you for your expert palates on donut decision. Our first donut tasting, the old-fashioned donut. We want to hear your take. What's your favorite old-fashioned donut? Please leave your comments below. Thanks for joining us on Donut Decision, and please stay tuned for our next donut tasting.